And I realized that being visible isn't a reward for your success. It's a tool to create the success that you want. And changing the way I thought about what it means to be visible, what exposure does for your business has helped me go from kind of hidden gem to someone that is more in demand, someone that people think of first when they think of, the things that I help with.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. Have you ever wondered if it's really possible to combine all of your personal and professional qualities into one attraction-based brand? Our guest today is Kelly Moser, a coach and consultant who has blended her powerhouse business side with her softer, soul-searching side to build a business that authentically represents who she is and how she helps her clients.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, Kelly.
Thank you both so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Yes, we're really excited about it and get to know you a little bit more and letting our listeners get to know you. So we usually start off with about the same question with our guests. We ask, let's talk about the why you got into coaching and consulting. What led you into that space?
Such a good question. Thank you for inviting that out of me. It's always a fun story to tell. So my background is in startup strategy and operations. I have supported businesses from startups in that kind of mid-sized, hungry, scrappy startup phase. I've also supported the big Fortune 500 companies through various positions that I held in-house. And I developed a really awesome skill set that I recognized was unique and needed in the market. I realized there was a great need for the skills that I had to offer. And I was someone who I've just always wanted to be my own boss. I'm not great at taking direction from others. I really felt like, I would be the happiest if I was in the driver's seat. And so eventually I realized I was also going through a really intense period of healing. I was diagnosed with PTSD when I was 22. And I had lived my entire life with PTSD and I had no idea. I thought my brain functioned the exact same way everybody else's brain functions. And it turns out that that was certainly not the case. So I was starting on a healing journey of really supporting and healing my nervous system, healing my mental health. I got really interested in meditation. It completely changed my life. I learned how to rewire my brain to not be anxious all the time, to not be stressed all the time, to not be fearful all the time. And I had developed these two skill sets that seemed so different, so separate, right? My really, analytical, strategic side that was kicking butt in the startup world, and this other side of me that was very soft and was very focused on healing and well-being. And I realized that actually combining those two disciplines, those two skill sets, was exactly what a lot of people actually need when they're on their entrepreneurship journey, when they're trying to scale a business. You need that side that knows how to calm your nervous system, knows how to regulate, knows how to stay grounded. And what I originally thought were these two very, intense competing sides of me actually ended up being exactly what I needed to start my own business and to offer something really unique in the market. So that's kind of how I got started.
Very interesting. Good insight too. I like the takeaways where you do the work to figure out how you work, right? And then being able to apply that information to other people and share it is really powerful.
Yeah, and a lot of that is about authenticity, which of course, when it comes to personal branding and what we do, authenticity is everything, because you can't live and breathe something every day that you're really not. So if you tried to be that, super bold, business side all day long and couldn't inject that other side of you, it'd probably be pretty tough for you, wouldn't it?
Exactly. You can't, exactly as you're saying, you just can't, you can fake it maybe for a little while, but eventually those cracks in your foundation would start to show. It would become clear that there was a part of you that you were leaving behind and there was a part of you that was feeling left out. And yeah, the sooner you can kind of integrate all the different components of yourself, the pieces that you don't think go together, the piece that you keep trying to push away might be the exact piece that your business is actually missing right now.
Yeah.
That's a really good insight, because I know being an entrepreneur myself all my life, since I worked for somebody for 3 months out of high school, and other than that, I've been on my own. And when you try to build and scale a business that is dependent on other humans, being teammates and working with you, don't you find that hard drive, that visionary, that it can be repelling to people because they haven't bought the dream in completely, that they don't fully understand. They want to please a lot of times and can't. That softer side's important, don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's so important. The softer side comes with just knowing who you are. It can be as simple, some people think that the kind of, if you explore the meditation world, that you have to get super spiritual. I think it's really just about knowing yourself. That's really all it is being, as developing that, flexing that muscle of self-awareness to say,
Mhm.
okay, I'm recognizing I'm showing up in this pattern in my business and it doesn't feel healthy all the time. I'm super stressed. I'm super, burnt out. That the first step to healing whatever's going on there is self-awareness. And that's just that's the kind of the gateway to the softer side. But yeah, that self-awareness is so important.
Mhm.
Yeah. And would you say that that is the bold move that you made that kind of really got you recognized in this space, was bringing that self-awareness to fruition?
I definitely think that was maybe step 1 of 2 bold. There are 2 kind of benchmarks when I think back to the bold moves I've made. That was definitely the first one where I decided that I wasn't gonna hide from that part of myself that was maybe a little bit softer around the edges, that did kind of take a more holistic approach to coaching and consulting and wasn't just go, 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 just push, 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 more, more, more all the time. That was my first bold move. And then my second bold move I would say is just actively prioritizing visibility and changing the way I thought about what it means to be visible, what exposure does for your business. I hid from that for a long time because I realize now that I was treating visibility and exposure and brand building as I treated those things as rewards for the success that I had already created. So it was kind of like I set up this obstacle course for myself that said, when I hit this income bracket, when I have this many followers, when I've helped this many people, then I can step into bigger opportunities for visibility and exposure and that kind of thing. And I realized that those it's not a reward. Being visible isn't a reward for your success. It's a tool to create the success that you want. And so that was a huge light bulb moment for me. I remember I was just walking my dog one day and it hit me like a lightning bolt. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been approaching building my brand in the wrong way. I've been waiting to hit benchmarks instead of utilizing and leveraging visibility to create those benchmarks." And that was a total game changer. And after that point, I really think that is the most important thing that has helped me go from kind of hidden gem, waiting to be discovered, waiting for people to figure out who I am and how I can help them, to someone that is more in demand, someone that people think of first when they think of, the things that I help with. So that would be definitely my second big bold move.
What a moment. Because I think that any entrepreneur that has some self awareness would feel the same way as what you just said. We have those doubts and we say, I do know what I'm talking about, but maybe on a benchmark compared to other people in an industry or other titans of business or things like that, I don't have. I'm not ready to expose that to the world. And that's really hindering. And I know I felt that before in my career. And I say now, one thing I'd change, I'd be more bold. And I think that's really what I'm trying to say is what you just articulated. You being more, don't wait till you hit benchmarks to be visible for something that you have to teach. Get out there, because that's a tool, like you just said, to more visibility and success. Not getting success and then saying, now I'm going to, put my widget out there.
Well, I have a question for you. What was your fear of doing it that way? Like, in other words, why do you think people tend to say, well, when I get here, then people will notice me, or then I can do this? What's the biggest fear that people have when they think the other way?
Oh my gosh, it's such a good question. There are so many fears. Some of us are afraid of failure. Some of us are afraid of success. Some of us are afraid of looking like fools. And it's imposter syndrome. It's all different kinds of imposter syndrome, all different manifestations, I think, of imposter syndrome. Because your imposter syndrome says you cannot add value until you are an expert, until you know everything that there is to know. And when you recognize you're getting further and farther along your journey, you realize you're never going to know everything. You're never going to be done. There's never going to be a place where you feel satisfied, where you feel like, okay, I've reached the thing. Because as soon as you hit that benchmark, you're on to the next one. So you're always
Mhm.
in this process of evolution and development. And if you can, I think we're afraid of accepting where we are now. I think we're afraid of um, just coming to terms with all the things that maybe we haven't accomplished yet, and being seen as someone who's still a work in progress, I think can be really scary. Of course, it's more comfortable and less scary to be seen as the person who's got it all figured out, as this 8-figure entrepreneur with a team of 300. Of course, you're going to feel like you have more to say then. But it doesn't mean you don't have anything to say now. You have so much value to add wherever you are now, whether you're just getting started, whether you're in the process of just getting traction, or if you're in that scale phase, you have something to add at every stage of your journey.
I would agree with that. In the podcast world, we love the podcast world, and we got into it accidentally, and really just as a lead gen, and then it just sort of took a life of its own. And we've got some friends who have like podcasts, and it's been a chronicle of their journey, and they've been totally open and honest about where they are. I'm flat broke. I ain't made no money. I'm going down this path. Y'all go with me, and it's awesome because they gain a lot of popularity because people are growing with them, and they're admitting in every podcast, I don't know, I'm going to try this, but I love that authenticity and that vulnerability. And I think the mass public does too. Because I mean, I would say we all have the same fears. They just manifest in different ways. Wouldn't you say?
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. And I think there's so much power in your vulnerability. And I think podcasting gives us that platform to be a little bit more vulnerable, where maybe other platforms like Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or YouTube, maybe there is a little bit more of an expectation of being at a certain level, of being more polished. But that's why I've found a home in the podcasting universe too, because it's come as you are. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. What's working for you,
Mhm.
what's not working for you. And I think you create such more authentic connections with people when they do get to see the side of you that is still a work in progress, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think too, in places like Instagram and TikTok, well, really any social medium, you're dealing in sound bites, right? So it's you're trying to communicate important things that you care about, messages that will help people, things you want them to know about you, but you've got like this much time, a little bit, right? And you want it to look just right, you want to position everything. But in podcasting, it's a real conversation, right? It's not done in 30 seconds or less. It's a
Yeah.
real conversation between people who have these common fears and goals.
Absolutely. There's a stat that I learned recently that I would love to share because it blew my mind when I heard it, and I know it's going to blow the minds of people listening to this. The average attention span of someone scrolling through Instagram is under 3 seconds. So that means that
Wow.
you have to pack such a punch in those first 3 seconds, and to do that doesn't always feel authentic to a lot of us. It's like I'm this way. I'm much better. I'm like a more extended dinner. You want to have a longer conversation with me to really. I'm not a fast food. I'm not like a fast food, takeout window. I really deliver my best value when I have the chance to warm up and really work through my ideas and present a more complete idea. Where some people are great at that, packing the punch. But the cool thing is that when you listen to a podcast episode, over 80% of people who press play on a podcast will finish the entire episode. So it's such a different quality of the kind of attention that you have, the different kind of relationship that you have with people. And that's why I've podcast guesting and hosting my own podcast is now my far and away my top strategy for building my brand, establishing my authority, and growing my business.
I love it.
Couldn't agree more.
Love it. We'll twist a little bit here. Let me ask you, what's the difference between an expert and a leader, and why does that matter?
Such a good question. I would love to share about this. So, in my opinion, I think we all are taught and told and coached into being experts. You should be striving to be at the top of your category. I think leadership is someone who's willing to kind of build their own category, someone who's willing to be a little bit more vulnerable, because the expert is someone who is striving for that polished perfection, someone who really relies on what they know, and they're very much in teacher mode. And that's not a bad place to be. But I think the difference between an expert and a leader is willing to say, this is where I stand on something. I don't necessarily need to diplomatically share both sides of the equation. I can tell you what people think, but I'm also going to tell you what I think. I'm going to be willing to maybe not be the most popular person in the room, but I'm going to commit to my values. I'm going to ground more into my values and build my brand, build my business from there. Whereas an expert is, it comes from a place of, I'm going to build my brand and my business based on what I know, based on my knowledge, my credentials, my expertise, my accolades. And a leader says, yeah, maybe I have all those things, maybe I don't. But what I care more about is building from a place of, these are my values. This is what I care about. This is what I stand for. Maybe I'm not the most polished person in the room. Maybe I don't have as many credentials and accolades. But what I do have is my conviction. I know what I believe in. I know what I'm here to do. I have my mission, and I'm willing to show you some of the messier parts. And I'm willing to maybe not be as popular all the time, because I am willing to share some of my more maybe less popular opinions, or call out some of the things that I'm seeing in my niche or in my industry that aren't working. And I know that might upset people, it might ruffle some feathers, but that's what feels authentic and true to me. And that's where I have to go. So I like to say an expert fights over the breadcrumbs in your niche, and a leader says, I'm just going to bake my own bread.
Oh, I
Mm,
love it.
I love that
Yeah.
too. And I'll tell you, it just aligns so well, when we work with people and to build that personal brand. One of the things we've noticed over the last decade of doing this with entrepreneurs is that there's there's always an event or someone in their lives that really kind of shaped who they are today and shaped those values you're talking about and the things that they stand for. And when they are able to share that story somehow through their brand or in their brand, it makes such a huge difference. So, leads to the question for you, Kelly. Was there a specific event or person in your life that really kind of shaped who you are today and got you to where you are right now?
Oh, that's such a good question. There's a couple of different things that come to mind. I think what I'll say is, I'm someone who, I will grow slow over growing fast. Without, if I'm not in alignment, I'll grow slow. Like, I would rather grow slow in the way that is the most aligned with who I am and what my values are. I am not someone who will ever look for a quick fix or a shortcut or a workaround or a hack. It's just not in my personality, and I would rather take the long route. And I think as I was getting started in, first of all, I've had the privilege and opportunity of working very closely with a lot of different kinds of businesses. Sometimes I was in the role of consultant, sometimes I was in the role of employee, and I've seen things done the way that I think they should be done. I've also seen things done a way that I didn't agree with. And there were some times in my career where I felt like I just couldn't continue to be a part of what was happening, because it didn't feel honest, or it didn't feel um, true to the brand's values, or it didn't feel like it was really honoring the end customer or the end client. And I just hated the way that felt so much, that I knew that when I got to do this on my own, whenever however long it took me to get to that place, I would build brick by brick in a way that felt so aligned to me and in a way that honors my values every step of the way. And my values are radical authenticity, radical honesty, doing things the right way, doing things in integrity. And for me, if I don't get to do it in integrity, I want nothing to do with it. Even if it was $1 million check, here you go. If I had to sacrifice even a little bit of my integrity, it would be a no for me. So I think the way that I show up now is really just an amalgamation of all the different things that I've gotten to see, both in my prior life as an employee, and in my current life as a consultant and a coach, where I get to see a lot of what's going on in my industry, a lot of which kind of gives me the creeps, gives me the heebie-jeebies. And I don't think it's all. I don't think all of it comes from a place of real honesty, and that bothers me. And so that's, I'm happy to grow at whatever pace I grow, as long as I can rest my head at night knowing that I showed up with honesty and authenticity that day. That's good enough for me.
Boy, can I identify with
Yeah,
that.
that's an absolute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When I was in the media world years ago, I was in there for, almost 2 decades. I like to laugh, except it's not really a joke. It's like, okay, I learned a lot more about what not to do than what to do, right? But those things shape you. They really do shape you, and you realize that's not the kind of business I want to operate
Mhm,
or operate in, either
mhm.
one, which is, ultimately, one of the reasons you leave. But I love that because it's everything. At the end of the day, if you can't be fulfilled and happy and feel meaning from what you produce and what you do for people throughout the day, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Agreed. Or if you have to cheat to get it, yeah, it's not.
Mhm.
I'm in the real estate business, and I teach. I've got great agents, but I teach them all the time. They'll come to me and they'll be like, "Oh, this unscrupulous agent did this, and they stole my commission and stuff." And I'm like, "Look, you just keep doing what you're supposed to do, and you will be rewarded for that 3 times over. Yeah, you might have lost this one because somebody lied or whatever. They're going to be done. You'll look them up 2 years from now. They won't even be in business. Just
Mhm.
keep doing what you're supposed to do, and you'll be rewarded for it. I firmly believe that. I'm like you. I don't like areas of life where we have to compromise that in any way, shape, or form. So, do you have a mentor, or have you had powerful mentors in your past? And maybe what's the best advice a mentor ever gave you, if you did have?
Oh, I had a really wonderful mentor at my last startup role. She was a powerhouse person, powerhouse. She started the business when she was 22, grew it from nothing, bootstrapped the whole thing by herself, and she was spunky. She is a lot spunkier than me, and she's very direct. But one of the things that she would tell us all the time is nobody cares. And what she meant by that was no, like we get so focused and fixated on the optics of what we're doing, and I can't change this because I this is I'm pivoting too quickly from the last pivot I made. And she kind of just said, nobody cares. Nobody's paying attention to you the way that you think they're paying attention to you. They're paying attention to themselves. They're worried about what they're working on. They're so focused on what they're doing that give yourself a break. If you have to
Mhm.
change something, change it as long as it's not backpedaling on a promise that you made. Be willing to evolve, give yourself the opportunity to change because you think people are staring at you and scrutinizing everything that you do and they're busy. They're not
You're
doing
not.
that. They're home, they've got families, they've got dogs to walk, they've got jobs. People are not at home just judging you the way that we feel, the way that we sometimes think that maybe people are. And that was really liberating. I learned a lot from her just I don't really care approach. I was a people pleaser my whole life. That was a very shocking kind of mindset shift for me. It's like, wait, people actually don't really care about what I'm doing. I can just do, what I feel is right and evolve and iterate as I go. And that's been a really, I mean, invaluable advice as I've grown my own business.
I would agree. A lot of freedom in that. And it is so true. I mean, I find that our self-perception is always wrong. Like it's always wrong. Like you need good, honest people around you to really tell you who you are and what you look like because your perception of it is always wrong. And sometimes that can be overly inflated egos. Sometimes that can be underinflated ego, like not enough ego. Like we're never really in balance. We need those good, honest people around us to help us to see that. We say here at BrandFace that it's impossible to read the label when you're inside the jar. And so
Oh,
you need people around you to help you, like especially with your brand. When we do things with people and we show them a new brand that we and a brand reveal, sometimes they'll even cry and they'll be like, "Is that me?" And we're like, "Well, we just gave you the information back that you gave to us, but this is the way we see you." And it's amazing the transformation people see with that. And I agree. We think people are listening, and they're not in the way that we think they're listening. They may be listening to every word, but they're not hearing everything we say the way we think. I even have a coffee cup. I wish I could have found it. And it says, "Shh, nobody's listening." And so it was funny when you said that. I wish I had that coffee cup. I'm not using it today, but
I love it.
that's
Well,
so
Kelly, Michael mentioned freedom and like, when you're building your business, you're building your brand. That's one of the things that's really important to people because you can be available for somebody a lot of the time, but you also want to be available for you. And so one of the questions we like to ask is if our listeners could have the freedom to visit anywhere in the world, is there a particular place you would recommend they visit and why?
Ooh, good question. This summer, I just went on my honeymoon this summer to Sardinia, which is an Italian island.
Mhm.
It is the second largest island in the Mediterranean after Sicily. But a lot of Americans, I find, I didn't know what it was until it came up on, some blog that we were reading, and it looked so amazing. It is one of the most serene, beautiful, welcoming places I've ever been. And go in July, not in August, because apparently all the Italians go in August and it starts to fill up. But we were there in July and it was empty. Everything was open. There are more beaches than people also. So you can walk onto a beach and just basically have an entire beach to yourself. It was every bit as picturesque as you would imagine, and then some. It was the best. Food was amazing. People were lovely. I can't wait to go back. I'm like, I don't want too many people to know about it though. It seems like a hidden gem,
Keep it a secret.
I can hear
Keep it
the
a secret.
passion in your voice for that, right? Because we do all of this hard work to help other people. And at the end of the day, we need that freedom for ourselves too. And creating this business and brand with this work-life balance is so important. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, and I got to add to it, like the Mediterranean's my favorite place on earth. Like I love the food in the Mediterranean. I've been to probably 6 or 7 countries around the Mediterranean, and want to go to all of them because I just love it out there. It's absolutely beautiful. We're actually going to Greece next August, so we're excited. I've been before, but she's never been, so yeah. Love that. Love that.
Enjoy it.
So what's next for you, Kelly?
What's next for me? So I've talked a little bit about how, I've been really stepping out and getting more visible, kind of reverse engineering what's been working and trying to evaluate what's not working. And I've dabbled in a lot of different mediums and avenues for visibility. And far and away, the one that has produced not just the most joy for me because it feels the most authentic, but the best returns for my brand and my business is podcast guesting. It's very similar to what I'm doing right now. I just love it. I can't get enough of it. It has been the best tool for building my brand and growing my business. And so now I'm teaching other people how to do that in a way that is actually profitable, actually delivers ROI for you, because it can quickly become, haphazardly guesting on this one and that one and this one can become just a really kind of time consuming hobby. So right now I'm really focused on helping people step out of that hidden gem into that thought leadership status by leveraging this incredible strategy that is, in my opinion, a wide open space that in 3 years, we're all going to be saying it's like TikTok. We all wish we had gotten on TikTok 3 years ago. We're all going to wish that we had really started taking strategic podcast guesting very seriously right now. So that's what I'm really excited about helping people do. I've got a course coming out. I'm thrilled to bring the first cohort through it. And yeah, I just can't wait. I know that this is, especially as people are feeling really frustrated by algorithms and engagement, so this moving target.
Oh my goodness.
I'm tired of it.
Sick of it.
Sick of it. This is something that is a constant. It's only growing. It's not growing and then contracting, growing and then contracting. And I just think that this is a really stable, sustainable strategy that every business owner really needs to be leveraging because it's just that good.
Could not agree more. It's really powerful and everybody should be looking into doing it. I'm glad you're actually taking that initiative to help people figure that out. And because like you said, it's emerging, it's very young yet. And you can be a part of you will no doubt be a part of what that landscape looks like.
Shaping the whole industry. Yeah. So, hey, and if you guys want to follow Kelly, best way to reach her is Instagram at kelly.moser, Mosser, kelly.moser, at kelly.moser. All right, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. You're a breath of fresh air. I couldn't agree with everything you said more today.
Yep. We're definitely aligned. And to the listeners out there, hey, if you like this kind of content, subscribe and hit the notification button. We'll bring you more because we love to do that. We love to bring that information to you first. Yeah.
And if you're battling with some of the questions that Kelly had about how to channel her, multiple qualities, her personal side and a professional side into the brand, we have a Facebook group for people just like you, where we crack the code on that kind of stuff every day. So it's Build Your Business Star Brand. That's the Facebook group. Join us.
Yep. Guys, listen, we do this for prosperity, and we know here at BrandFace, prosperity favors the bold. So we say be bold, just like Kelly. And thank you, Miss Tanya.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time on Be Bold Branding.
Brought to you by BrandFace, the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe.